awaken. Welcome to Horror Exposure.
What's up, Horror Exposure family? How are you all doing? I hope you're doing well, because after what I'm about to share with you today, some of you might think twice before getting out of bed to use the bathroom at night. Every week, so many stories come into Horror Exposure. Some are terrifying, some are deeply mysterious, but every once in a while, something lands in my inbox that makes me stop cold, makes me read it twice, 3 times, and then just sit there in silence. Today's story is one of those. This account comes from a small town in Louisiana called Millhaven. Tucked along the edge of the Mississippi, wrapped in cypress trees and Spanish moss, this town looks peaceful from the outside, but beneath that quiet surface, something very old has been sleeping. Today, we're going to talk about what happened when it woke up. Lean back, put your headphones on, and if you're alone right now, keep the lights on, because this one starts right now. Everyone in Millhaven knows about Blackwater Pond. They've always known. It sits at the southern edge of town, behind the old Callaway property. The water is so dark, you can't see the bottom, even in broad daylight. The locals have an unspoken rule about it. Don't fish there, don't let your kids near it, and whatever you do, don't walk past it alone after dark. Why? Ask anyone in town and they'll look away, shift their weight, and then they'll say, "It's an old place. Old things sleep there." Nobody ever explains further than that. Our story begins in the fall of 2021, late October. The Callaway family had lived on that property for 3 generations. Daniel Callaway, a retired school teacher, quiet and steady. His wife, Margaret, their son, Ethan, and Ethan's close friend, Cole, who practically lived there on weekends. It started with Margaret. On an ordinary Tuesday night, Daniel woke up sometime past midnight and reached over to his wife's side of the bed. Cold. Empty. He figured she'd gotten up for water. He checked the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room. He walked through every single room in that house. Margaret was nowhere inside.
Ethan. The two of them grabbed flashlights and stepped outside. And the moment Daniel turned his beam toward the back of the property, his stomach dropped. Margaret was standing in the middle of Blackwater Pond, chest deep in water, eyes wide open, but completely vacant, like she was staring through the world, not at it. Her lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. It looked like she was having a conversation with something that wasn't there. Ethan didn't hesitate. He ran straight into the water and pulled his mother out. The moment her feet touched solid ground, she blinked, looked around like someone coming out of a dream, and said, "How did I get out here? I was just sleeping." She had no memory of it, none at all. Daniel told himself it was sleepwalking, stress. Margaret had been tired lately. He took her to the doctor the next morning. The doctor ran tests, checked everything, and said, "All looks normal. Could be stress-related. Make sure she gets rest." But it didn't stop. 3 nights later, around 2 in the morning, Ethan was up late studying when he heard something through the wall. A voice, low and rhythmic, coming from his parents' room. He pushed the door open, and there was Margaret, lying flat on her back in bed, eyes shut, speaking in a slow, measured tone. "It's mine. All of it is mine. Nobody touches it. Nobody comes near it. It's been waiting. It's been waiting so long." Ethan crossed the room and put his hand on her shoulder. She went silent instantly, fell into a deep, still sleep. In the morning, nothing. She didn't remember a single word. Ethan told his father everything. Daniel's face went pale. But before they could decide what to do, Cole showed up and said something that changed the entire picture. "Ethan," Cole said quietly, "your mom said it's been waiting. Do you remember that old wooden post by the pond? The one with the symbols carved into it? The one your dad always told us to stay away from?" Ethan stared at him. "Yeah, he never told us why. I was at the library last week, going through old local history books. There was a section on Millhaven. It mentioned Blackwater Pond directly. It said in the 1830s, something was sealed beneath that pond. It didn't say what, just this." Cole paused. "Buried deep. May it never resurface." The room went very quiet. That same night, things escalated. At 3 in the morning, Daniel awoke to find Margaret gone again. This time, the bedroom door was locked from the inside. He had locked it himself before going to sleep, and she was still gone. They ran outside, Daniel, Ethan, and Cole, and there, lit up by their flashlights, was Margaret. She was standing on a branch of the massive old cypress tree that grew beside Blackwater Pond, 20 feet off the ground, on a branch so thin that a large raccoon would have snapped it. She was perfectly still, perfectly balanced, staring down at the water with that same hollow, empty gaze. No amount of calling reached her. She didn't respond to her name. She didn't flinch at the light. She just stood there, like she was waiting for a signal that only she could receive. Their neighbor, Thomas Webb, an older man who'd lived in Millhaven his whole life, heard the commotion and came out. One look at Margaret, and he said, "Get her down, right now. Use sheets, rope, whatever you have. Get her down before she falls." They tied 4 bed sheets together. A dozen people from the neighborhood held the makeshift net below. Ethan climbed the tree, and the moment his hand touched his mother's arm, the branch cracked, snapped clean. Margaret dropped. The sheets caught most of the fall, but not all of it. She hit the ground wrong. Her right leg broke. They rushed her to Millhaven General. At the hospital, Margaret slowly came around, confused, in pain, no memory of the tree. Back at the house, Thomas Webb sat with Daniel, and finally, he said the thing he'd been holding back. "Daniel, there's something I need to tell you. My grandfather told me about this pond. He said there was a clay jar buried at the bottom, sealed there a long time ago by someone nobody remembers anymore. He said as long as that jar stayed intact and sealed, this land would be safe. But if it was ever opened," Thomas paused for a long moment, "whatever was inside it would come back out, and it wouldn't be something that ordinary people could handle." Daniel looked at him. "You think Margaret opened it?" "I think," Thomas said slowly, "that she didn't have a choice in the matter." The next morning, Cole went back to the library, deeper this time, and in a collection of handwritten documents from the 1850s, he found the journal of a traveler who had passed through Millhaven and recorded local accounts about the pond. The entry read,
"The locals speak of a watcher beneath the water. They call it Izaguda, a name passed down from older tongues. It is not a ghost. It is not a demon in the Christian sense. It is something far older, something that was here before the first settler, before the first native tribe. It hungers not for human souls, but for something that others of its kind possess. It destroys its own kind, and for that reason it was sealed away by a man whose name no living person now remembers."
Cole photographed the page and brought it back. Everyone read it in silence. Thomas spoke first. "You need someone who knows what they are dealing with. A priest won't cut it. A regular paranormal investigator won't cut it." He gave them a name: Father Aurelio, based out of New Orleans. Decades of experience with Louisiana's oldest and most unusual cases. Daniel drove to New Orleans that same afternoon. Father Aurelio listened to everything without interrupting. When he finished, the man sat quietly for a moment, then said, "Go home, Mr. Calloway. I'll be there within 2 days." Daniel drove back. He pulled into the driveway, walked through the front door, and stopped dead in the hallway. Margaret was lying in her bed, unconscious. She had been discharged from the hospital by nobody. Ethan was still sitting in her hospital room when the nurses discovered her bed was empty. She had simply reappeared at home. Daniel called Father Aurelio immediately. "She's back. I don't know how. She's unconscious." Father Aurelio said, "Make sure someone is with her every moment. I'll be there tomorrow morning." Father Aurelio arrived the following afternoon. He walked through the house slowly, taking his time in each room. He went outside and stood at the edge of the pond for several minutes without speaking. Then he came back inside and sat down across from Margaret. What happened next? Ethan was standing right there when it happened. Father Aurelio looked directly into Margaret's eyes. 30 seconds of complete silence. Then he pushed his chair back hard, stood up, pressed himself against the wall. His face had gone completely white. His hands were trembling. I cannot. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. I cannot help you." And then he walked out of the room, out of the house, out of the property without looking back. He never returned. The family sat in stunned silence. The expert they had brought in, the man with 31 years of experience, had taken one look at Margaret and run. Cole went back to searching. This time, not through books, but through people. He asked around town, talked to older residents, followed thread after thread, and he kept hearing one name: Harold Old Hawk Thibodeau. 80-something years old, of whom a Native American descent, lived alone deep in the bayou. People who had known him for decades spoke about him in mere whispers, not out of fear, but from something closer to reverence. Cases that no one else could touch, things that he had put to rest that had been active for generations. Daniel and Ethan made the trip out to the bayou, 3 hours by boat. When they finally reached Old Hawk's place, a small weathered structure half hidden by cypress trees and hanging moss, and told him everything, the old man listened without expression. Then he said, "Isaguda. Yes, I know that name. My great-great-grandfather spoke of it. It is old, older than anything you have a word for. It does not hunger for human beings. It hungers for its own kind. It destroys them to grow stronger. That is why it was sealed. Something that hunts its own kind cannot be allowed to walk free. Can you help us?"
asked. Old Hawk looked at him steadily. "I cannot do it alone, but I know the way. Go home, I will come." 2 days later, Old Hawk arrived. He brought dried herbs, specific clay materials, and a hand-carved wooden symbol around his neck. He told the family, "Tonight, everyone stays inside. I work alone. No matter what you hear, and you may hear things, do not come out, not for any reason." That night, the Calloway family sat inside and listened. Sometimes they heard wind, sometimes the sound of water, though the pond had been filled in. Sometimes absolute silence. The kind of silence that feels like pressure, like something pressing against the walls from outside. 3 nights passed like that. On the morning after the 3rd night, Margaret opened her eyes. She sat up slowly, looked around the room, and in a completely normal voice said, "Daniel, how long have I been out?" Daniel couldn't speak. He just held her hand.
Old Hawk came inside that morning, deeply tired, but with a stillness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He said, "Izaguda has been sealed again, deeper this time. Fill in that pond completely. Do not let water collect there again. Some containers are sealed for a reason. The land will be quiet now." Then he said, "Go to the west side of where the pond was. There will be 3 crows and a cottonmouth snake on the ground. They are gone. Bury them with respect, because without them I could not have done what needed to be done." They went out together, and sure enough, 3 black crows and 1 thick cottonmouth, all still, all in the same place. They buried them carefully, quietly, with as much dignity as they could. Within a few weeks, Blackwater Pond was completely filled in. Grass grew over it. The old wooden marker was gone. Margaret made a full recovery. The leg healed. The family is doing well. But Ethan told Cole, and Cole eventually told us that sometimes, not often, but sometimes, Ethan wakes up from a dream he can't fully remember. Just flashes, dark water, something far below, pressing upward, reaching for the surface. He reminds himself each time the pond is gone, it's over, it's sealed. But here's the thing about dreams. They don't always lie. Horror Exposure family, this story stays with me for one reason. We build our homes on the ground. We dig our foundations, plant our gardens, fill our backyards with everything we love, and we never think about what might already be down there, what was sealed away long before we arrived, what has been waiting, patient as stone, for the right moment. Izaguda is a name from this story, but the idea behind it, something ancient, something sealed, something that should not be disturbed, that shows up in the histories and folklore of cultures all over the world. Maybe that's a coincidence, or maybe there's a reason so many different people in so many different places across so many centuries all felt the need to warn us. Some things are buried for a reason. Leave them that way. Sleep tight. That's
that's all for today's horror exposure. If this one got under your skin, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a new episode when it drops. Now here's the part I look forward to every single week. Has something happened to you or to someone close to you that you simply cannot explain? Something that felt wrong in a way you still can't put into words? Something you've never told anyone because you weren't sure anyone would believe you? Send it to Horror Exposure. Every week, I go through every submission personally. The most compelling real accounts are selected and featured as full episodes, told the way they deserve to be told. Your story could be our next episode. All submission details are in the description box below. Names can always be kept anonymous. No judgment, just the truth. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and maybe don't go wandering near any dark water after midnight. This is Horror Exposure.